You are not what happened to you, you are what you choose to become. You stand in the middle of the room, and yet you feel like you are nowhere at all. Faces surround you. Friends, colleagues, strangers, but each smile feels distant. Each conversation muffled by a wall only you can hear. The room hums with life, laughter bouncing from walls, music vibrating through your chest, but inside you feel hollow, detached. It's as if everyone else carries a map, a guide to belonging, and you were given a compass that points nowhere. Your feet move, your lips respond, but your heart retreats, folding itself into a corner no one can reach. The invisible chains that bind you are subtle. They are not iron or rope, but habits, fears, and old wounds, gripping you tightly in a quiet, relentless way. They whisper that closeness is dangerous, that vulnerability will bring only pain, so you step back or push forward too hard, unknowingly sabotaging every connection. You are a prisoner in plain sight, bound not by walls, but by your own unseen hands. Every interaction is a test you did not choose. You catch yourself overthinking a friend's compliment, questioning a partner's affection, withdrawing before anyone has the chance to hurt you. The chains were forged long ago, shaped by childhood whispers, broken promises, and silent betrayals. Perhaps a parent who left, a friend who betrayed, a lover who vanished. Each moment etched a line into your subconscious, teaching you that trust is a gamble with a cruel deck. So now, even when someone reaches for your hand, a part of you shrinks away. You create distance. Sometimes gently, sometimes with a force that surprises even yourself. You tell yourself it is caution, prudence, self-preservation, but deep down it is fear. Fear of disappointment, fear of loss, fear of being fully known. You have become a master of avoidance, a ghost navigating the spaces between connection and solitude. And yet, there is a strange irony in this. You are longing for closeness even as you push it away. You crave warmth, even as your actions keep others at bay. The more you resist, the more isolated you feel, trapped in a loop that feels like fate but is really your own design. You wonder why intimacy always slips through your fingers, why relationships fracture, why friendships fade. The painful truth is that your greatest enemy is not the world. It is the part of you that fears being seen. It is the part of you that learned early safety lies in withdrawal and pain is inevitable if you try. Look closer, and you will see the pattern repeated in every interaction. A joke taken too seriously, a message unanswered, a hug turned away. Each small act, seemingly insignificant, builds a wall higher and higher. Others sense it, even if they cannot name it. They reach, you retreat. They lean, you pull back. Every bridge you burn is a mirror reflecting a part of yourself you have never wanted to confront. And the saddest part, it works. You have successfully kept yourself safe. You are untouchable, but also alone. The safety feels like survival, but it tastes bitter, leaving a hollow ache where connection should be. You are standing in a crowded room, and the chains are invisible, but they are real. They are the quiet saboteurs of your happiness, the architects of your solitude. And understanding this is the first step, recognizing that the loneliness, the disconnection, the frustration is not random, not punishment. It is a signal from within, calling you to look, to see, to begin. You are not broken, you are awakening. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You think you are making choices, but often you are not. Self-sabotage is not laziness. It is not a weakness. It is a hidden current, flowing beneath your conscious mind, steering your actions without permission. Imagine a shadow that follows you everywhere, silent, invisible, shaping every step you decide to reach out, to try to trust. But somehow, just before the moment arrives, you falter, you procrastinate, you overthink, you push away. The shadow is not malicious, it is a fragment of your psyche attempting to protect you from old pain. Childhood disappointments, betrayals, small humiliations, they do not vanish. They integrate into your internal world as a warning system, a guard that whispers, "Better safe than hurt." So you pull back, you resist success, love, and connection. You stumble over your own defenses, and you call it bad luck or bad timing, never realizing that your own mind has already laid the traps. Every hesitation, every doubt, every sudden withdrawal is a subtle echo of that shadow, moving through your choices, shaping your destiny in ways you do not see. But these patterns carry a cost. The shadow's guidance, while protective in origin, becomes destructive over time. You may have noticed relationships ending before they fully begin, opportunities slipping just when they feel within reach. Friends drift away, promises remain unkept. Every act of self-sabotage is a small fracture in the life you could have built. Imagine a garden where the seeds of potential are buried under weeds. You planted yourself. You water the weeds with doubt and fear, while the flowers of growth struggle for sunlight. It is subtle, almost imperceptible, until one day you realize the landscape of your life looks very different from what you dreamed. Emotional isolation settles in quietly, a slow fog that clouds clarity and warmth. You feel the pull of connection, but instinctively you pull back, unknowingly confirming the very loneliness you wish to avoid. Even modern life reinforces the illusion. Social media shows endless success and love, while you silently sabotage your own. You see others thriving, and yet you hesitate on your own path. A promotion you could take, a conversation you could start, a confession of love you could make, each held back by invisible chains. The weight is real though unseen. Every choice you think is conscious is sometimes just the shadow leading you where it believes you must go. And the more you resist awareness, the stronger it grows, shaping not only your relationships but your self-worth, your confidence and your joy. The cost is cumulative, a hidden toll extracted quietly by habits you cannot yet name. To confront self-sabotage is to confront the invisible shadow. To understand that your failures are not proof of inadequacy, but patterns rooted in protection. To see that the loneliness, the missed opportunities, the fractured connections are not accidents. They are signals calling for recognition, for consciousness, for courage to step into the light where the shadow can no longer rule unseen. You are not your patterns. You are their witness. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. You have learned to retreat, to step back when someone leans in, to build walls so high even the sky cannot touch you. There is a strange comfort in the distance. It feels like safety, like control. You tell yourself that being alone protects you from disappointment, rejection, heartbreak. You avoid the vulnerability that love demands, convincing yourself that this separation is strength. The quiet apartment, the unreturned text, the empty chair at dinner, all feel like shields, not prisons, but the truth is more unsettling. The comfort of distance is a mirage. It protects you from pain. Yes, but it also shields you from growth, from joy, from the raw intimacy that makes life vivid. Each time you pull away, a piece of potential dissolves, slipping quietly into the shadows. You may feel proud of your self-reliance, but it is a fragile armor. Behind the curtain of solitude, there is longing, frustration, and a silent whisper that you are missing something essential. You have traded risk for illusion, warmth for safety, connection for a mirage that never warms the heart. And yet, Your mind does not always let you rest in that comfort. You are drawn to patterns that echo your wounds. You find yourself repeatedly attracted to those who trigger old pain, who repeat dynamics you thought were behind you. It is as if you are walking into a fire and expecting warmth. You fall for the person who dismisses your needs, who leaves without explanation, who reflects the childhood abandonment you never fully healed from. Each heartbreak feels familiar, even predictable, yet you chase it as if the repetition could bring closure. In reality, it brings validation to the shadow that tells you love is dangerous, that trust is risky, and that closeness always ends in loss. The fire burns the same way every time, yet the hope of warmth draws you forward. You confuse intensity for passion, chaos for love, and pain for proof that you are alive. The cycle continues, invisible and relentless, until you can step back and see the truth. What you seek in others is always a reflection of what remains unhealed within. Society, of course, whispers its own illusions. Independence is praised as strength. Emotional detachment is celebrated as maturity. Toughness becomes a badge, masking fear and self-sabotage in plain sight. You are taught that to rely on others is weakness, that vulnerability is dangerous, that self-sufficiency is the highest form of survival. These cultural messages reinforce the walls you already carry, blending the internal shadow with external expectation. You begin to see isolation as a virtue rather than a consequence. You wound yourself that the distance is normal, even necessary, but deep inside, a quiet voice asks if this is truly the life you want, if the relationships you avoid and the love you sabotage are really substitutes for cowardice or misdirected courage. The mask of normalcy can fool the world, but it cannot fool your soul. The tension builds quietly, a reminder that illusions, no matter how comfortable, eventually crack under the weight of desire and longing. Awareness begins the unmasking. When you see that the distance, the patterns, the cultural praise, all of it has been shaping you into someone isolated and fearful, a choice appears. You can step into discomfort, face your attraction to what hurts, confront the shadow you have hidden behind armor and approval. Real growth is not in avoidance. Real love is not in repetition. Real courage is choosing presence even when it scares you, and only then can the comfort of true intimacy replace the hollow safety of illusion. You are not your distance. You are your courage. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. There is a part of you that you do not see, a part that moves silently behind your decisions, your impulses, your fears. Carl Jung called it the shadow. The hidden self made of everything you have buried, your shame, your fear, your anger, your unmet needs. It lives in the dark corners of your mind, quietly shaping your life. You may pride yourself on logic, reason, and control, yet the shadow is always present, pulling strings you cannot name. It whispers doubts, inflames insecurities, and nudges you toward patterns you thought you had outgrown. This is not punishment. It is protection, a subconscious attempt to shield you from pain you once could not bear. It is the part of you that learned early: the world is dangerous, love is risky, and trust can break a heart. And so the shadow shapes your steps, often without your knowledge, ensuring you never step too far from the comfort of its invisible guardrails. You feel its influence as hesitation, as sudden withdrawals, as inexplicable anger or sadness. You may call it mood swings, bad luck, or poor timing, but it is your shadow, moving like a silent tide beneath your conscious mind. These early wounds are more than memory. They are decision makers. The hurt of a childhood betrayal, a parent's absence, a friend's rejection. embeds itself into the nervous system, creating patterns that repeat across decades. You reach for love and unconsciously push it away. You chase opportunity, but hesitate at the final step. The choices you believe are yours are sometimes guided by ghosts, steering your hand while you think it is your own. You may notice that certain types of people consistently trigger fear or anger, that old arguments replay themselves in new relationships, or that moments of closeness feel unbearable. These are not coincidences, they are the echoes of unhealed wounds. Each repeated pattern is a signal that your unconscious is at work, trying to protect you from repeating past pain, yet inadvertently perpetuating it. The shadow is loyal in its intent, but blind in its method. You are not failing, you are repeating survival strategies that no longer serve you. Patterns, once protective, can become prisons. Self-sabotage is rarely rebellion or laziness. It is a survival mechanism gone rogue. You avoid intimacy not because you do not want it, but because your nervous system remembers the threat of abandonment. You reject opportunity not because you lack talent, but because fear of failure is woven into your earliest experiences. The ghost of your shadow whispers, "Better safe than hurt," while you mistake it for reason. It is a cruel irony. The very patterns that kept you alive now keep you small. You may feel shame for pushing others away, guilt for not taking chances, confusion for your own impulses, but this is misunderstanding, not moral failure. Recognition is the first step to freedom, seeing the shadow for what it is. A protector that lost its way changes the narrative. Compassion replaces blame. Awareness replaces confusion. The patterns are not you, they are echoes of survival, waiting for conscious guidance. When you name them, you reclaim the choices that were never truly yours to begin with. Your shadow is not the enemy. It is the part of you crying to be understood, integrated, and accepted. When you stop fighting it and begin observing, you find clarity, power, and agency. Every hesitation becomes a message. Every withdrawal becomes a mirror. And in that reflection, you can finally distinguish the voice of fear from the voice of choice. You are not your wounds, you are their witness. You do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The cracks appear quietly at first. A missed call that lingers longer than it should, a hesitation in conversation, a thought that spirals into self-doubt. Then the panic arrives, sudden and uninvited, like a storm breaking over calm seas. Your heart races over imagined slights. Your mind twists a neutral comment into judgment, a fleeting glance into rejection. Every decision feels loaded, every word heavy. You wonder if you are overreacting, yet the fear is real, tangible in your chest. Nights are restless. Mornings carry the weight of unresolved tension, and even the simplest tasks seem monumental. In traffic, at work, in the quiet moments alone, you feel it, the trembling undercurrent of anxiety, the shadow that whispers that you are not enough. Self-sabotage has fractured your confidence, leaving you exposed to your own fears. The world outside continues as usual, but inside a collapse is quietly unfolding. You reach for certainty, for stability, but the foundations have already begun to crumble, leaving nothing but fragments of the self you once knew. In relationships, the erosion becomes painfully visible. You push, pull, and retreat so often that you forget who you are in the process. The person who once felt confident, vibrant, and whole becomes a ghost in their own life. Imagine a house slowly hollowed from the inside, beams weakened, walls cracked, the roof sagging under the weight of neglect. Every time you distance yourself to protect your heart, a piece of your identity is chipped away. Friends drift, lovers grow frustrated, and even familiar family ties feel strained. You begin to question your own desires, your own worth. You wonder if intimacy is inherently dangerous, or if you are simply incapable of sustaining it. The struggle to maintain your sense of self amidst repeated self-sabotage feels like running through a maze with no exit. Each attempt at connection brings relief and fear in equal measure, leaving you unsteady, fragile, and increasingly disconnected from the core of who you are. The weight of isolation presses down like a tidal wave. It is quiet yet suffocating, a heavy fog that seeps into your bones. Loneliness becomes a constant companion, whispering that perhaps this is all you deserve, that connection is fleeting and pain inevitable. You scroll through social media, seeing others thrive, laugh, and love effortlessly, while your own attempts feel clumsy and doomed. Every missed opportunity, every conversation ended too soon, every gesture of closeness rejected accumulates like stones in your chest. Despair is not always loud. Often it is a quiet ache, a dull reminder that distance is easier than vulnerability, yet emptiness grows. Even when surrounded by people, you feel unseen, unheard, unmoored. Yet this pressure, this unbearable weight, is also the signal that transformation is possible. Awareness of the collapse, painful as it is, becomes the starting point for reconstruction. The cracks are not the end, they are the invitation to rebuild, stronger and more conscious than before. You are not broken, you are becoming whole. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. You look back at the people you loved and the moments that hurt, and a startling truth begins to emerge. It was never love. What you thought was passion, closeness, or comfort was often a mirror of your own wounds. Every betrayal, every heartbreak, every misaligned expectation reflected something inside you, not outside. You were chasing connection, yet what returned was the echo of old fears, unmet needs, and unresolved pain. The arguments that seemed disproportionate, the sudden withdrawals that felt cruel, the cycles of closeness followed by distance. These were not signs that love was missing, but that your inner world was speaking through the people around you. Your patterns, unseen and unexamined, projected your own insecurities onto others, making the pain feel external. The mirror of illusion is subtle, yet relentless. You may have blamed yourself, blamed the other person, blamed timing or circumstance, but the real source was always within. Seeing this clearly is not an accusation, it is a revelation, an invitation to understand that relational pain is a teacher, not a verdict. What you mistook for love was often a mask, a beautiful mask hiding emptiness, longing, or avoidance. A partner's attention could feel intoxicating, but beneath it was a reflection of your unmet needs, their own fears, or mutual avoidance. You are attached to moments of intensity rather than genuine connection, confusing chaos for passion, drama for depth. You may have stayed with someone who made you feel small because it reminded you of childhood dynamics, or clung to a fleeting intimacy because it gave temporary safety. The smiles, the flattery, the fleeting affection, they were masks, disguises for patterns neither of you could fully recognize. What felt like belonging was sometimes projection. You sought love, but found only the reflection of the parts of yourself that needed attention. Recognizing this does not diminish the experience, it illuminates it, revealing the distinction between what is real and what is imagined. Acceptance is the first step toward healing. You must face the truth without judgment. The relationships you clung to, the pain you endured, the mistakes you repeated, they were not failures. They were messages. They were signposts pointing toward unresolved shadows, unhealed wounds, and unconscious choices. Acceptance allows you to stop chasing illusions and start seeing clearly. It is gentle but firm, a steady hand guiding you out of confusion. When you recognize the patterns, You reclaim power over your story. You no longer chase what cannot sustain you. You no longer blame yourself or others for shadows projected onto love. This awareness prepares you for the next stage, meeting your shadow, integrating your pain, and stepping into relationships rooted in conscious choice rather than unconscious repetition. What was never love becomes a lesson, a mirror, a guide, and in this recognition, freedom begins. You are not what you chase. You are what you choose to embrace. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. You have spent years running from a part of yourself, hiding from shadows that whisper truths you were never ready to hear, but avoidance only strengthens them. Every time you push away fear, guilt, or shame, you feed the patterns that keep you small. The shadow thrives in silence, in denial, in the spaces you refuse to enter. Confrontation is not a punishment, it is liberation. To face the shadow is to reclaim energy wasted on fear and avoidance. Imagine a storm trapped in a bottle, shaking you from the inside. Each act of avoidance keeps the storm bottled, but powerless to dissipate. When you confront it, when you shine conscious light into those corners of your psyche, the storm transforms. The energy becomes power, clarity, creativity, and choice. Confrontation is not easy. It is raw, uncomfortable, even frightening. But every moment spent looking away has cost you more than the moment spent looking within. Courage does not erase the shadow. It invites dialogue, understanding, and mastery over the patterns that once ruled you. To meet yourself fully is the first act of true empowerment. Begin by listening. Acknowledge the fear, the anger, the grief you have long suppressed. Name it. Give it presence. Speak to it silently, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Turn the locked room of your inner world into a room of understanding. Ask your shadow what it has been trying to protect you from. Listen to its story. Perhaps it recalls childhood pain, betrayal, or neglect. Perhaps it reminds you of promises you made to yourself long ago, broken by circumstance or fear. This is not weakness, it is recognition. It is witnessing your wounds without flinching. You may feel resistance, discomfort, even tears. This is the language of the soul. To sit with your shadow is to discover why you sabotaged, why you withdrew, why your patterns repeated. Each insight turns confusion into clarity. Each acknowledgement softens fear and replaces instinctive reaction with conscious choice. Integration follows awareness. The more you recognize the patterns, the more you reclaim agency. You see the impulse to push away a friend, a lover, or an opportunity, and you pause. You feel the familiar surge of fear and name it. And in that pause lies power. You choose differently, because you now understand the mechanism of your past choices. Self-care becomes intentional, relationships become conscious, and boundaries become tools of empowerment rather than walls of avoidance. The shadow does not disappear, it becomes a guide, a teacher, an ally. Where once fear dictated your steps, awareness now lights the path. Each choice affirms your growth. You are no longer a puppet to invisible strings. You are the orchestrator of your life, the witness to your impulses, and the architect of the person you choose to become. Meeting the shadow is the point at which fear transforms into agency, and pain transforms into wisdom. You are not your fear. You are its conscious master. He who has a reason to live can bear almost anyhow. The storm within you has begun to settle. The echoes of fear, the shadows that once dictated your every step, now whisper instead of roar. You notice clarity where there was confusion, a gentle quiet where panic once reigned. Decisions no longer feel like battles, but choices guided by awareness. You see the people around you more clearly, not as threats or mirrors of past wounds, but as individuals capable of connection, love, and understanding. The chaos that once defined your relationships no longer has power over you. Each breath feels lighter, each interaction more authentic. You can finally witness your own resilience. The ability to face fear, to name it, to integrate it, and in that, discover a calm you once thought impossible. Peace is not the absence of storms, but the mastery of how you weather them. You begin to experience love, trust, and intimacy, not as sources of anxiety, but as mirrors of your own grounded presence. The calm after the storm is not passive, it is active, luminous, and alive. With this clarity comes choice. The patterns that once sabotaged your happiness no longer run in the background, unseen and relentless. You can now decide how you want to show up in relationships, in friendships, in every area of your life. Trust can replace suspicion, boundaries can replace withdrawal, self-respect can replace fear-fueled compromise. Imagine building a bridge where there was once a wall, each plank a conscious decision, each beam a lesson learned from past mistakes. Where fear once dictated retreat, awareness now enables approach. Where confusion once clouded judgment, presence now brings wisdom. You can nurture relationships without losing yourself, protect your heart without hiding from the world, and pursue connection without repeating old wounds. Your future is no longer scripted by unconscious patterns, it is authored by your conscious, deliberate choices. This is your invitation to transformation. The path is not finished, and the work continues, but you are no longer lost in shadows. Embrace the courage to grow, to confront fear, to let others in without sacrificing your integrity. Allow intimacy to be a source of strength, not anxiety. Let each step forward be a declaration that you choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and love over fear. The journey is yours to craft, moment by moment, breath by breath. In every act of conscious choice, you reaffirm that the storms of the past no longer have the power to define your life. You are not your past. You are the peace you create today.